Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight's vBrownBag. I'm Tom Green, and I'll be your host as we deep dive into API security. To help us along with that journey, we have Anthony Chow. We're very interactive. We're a live show. Right now, we are live just before Thanksgiving, and I'm manning Twitter at the hashtag vBrownBag and the handle at vBrownBag. I'd be more than happy to ask your questions and interrupt and jump in with Anthony whenever you need help. We have live webinars all through the world and multiple times per week. So if there's a region or time that fits your schedule better, please join us at any of our other vBrownBag webinars, and you can find those all on vBrownBag.com. So without any further ado, I will hand it over to Anthony. So Anthony, can you please introduce yourself and kind of set us up while I get the presentation over to you?
Yes, good evening. Welcome to vBrownBag. My name is Anthony Chow. I am a software developer. Before I go on, let me show my screen. Actually, a little correction. This is not a very deep dive on API security, but I'm trying to touch on the topic and see where we can go from there. So, like I said, I am a software developer. Apart from writing writing software, I also look into IoT, networking, and security-related topics. So security is always in my mind. Everything I look at from a security point of view. And then I try to keep up with the latest IT technology so that I keep myself relevant. I think this is a very thing that I need to do, is to keep myself relevant. And what got me to look into OAuth2 was that I became a Auth0 ambassador. Auth0 is an identity as a service company, and in their website they have lots of good resources on this topic, on authentication, OAuth, and also how you can manage your identity. And tonight I'm happy and excited to be here to look into security API with OAuth2 with you. Before we look at OAuth2, let's take a look at securing API as a whole. I found this slide very interesting from this website, and it shows different kinds of APIs. And the API that we're looking at today is the REST API. And I think if you are interested, just go to this website and take a look at let's also talk about different APIs. For REST API security, if you Google also, there are lots of good articles. And one of the things I find is that this organization, Open Web Application Security Project, they have a cheat sheet on talking about REST security, and it's a lot of good information also. And this another dzone.com is another good research site where they have different topics that you can look into. So what is OAuth2? Everyone, if you look at the right side of the screen, this is a login screen. Everyone should have seen this kind of login screen. You can log in with different credentials. The traditional way of logging into a system is to use username and password. Although for this, you can still do that. But on top, it adds a few more options. You can log in with your GitHub credential, Google, LinkedIn, or maybe this is Microsoft and not Facebook. Sometimes you see Facebook too. And how it works is that the server we want to log in will direct us back to Facebook, Google, or GitHub. And once we log in, it will be giving us a token to pass to the server as we log in. This is called authorization delegation. This also has another use case that we allowed application to access your account, social media account such as Facebook, on our behalf to get the information, maybe for some of your profile or some of your connections. The good part is that if we do it this way, the indirect way, we can revoke the access to Facebook for the application anytime. If you have to create a username and password or create an account on some foreign application, this might not be a wise choice. So this is a good way, and this is becoming more and more popular or being used. And today we look at specifically on how OAuth2 can be used to secure API and not for logging in. Well, with 1 hour's time, we may not be able to grasp the entire subject, but at least I'm hoping to present the basics and there are other links and resources so that we can move forward. If in the audience there is not already someone using OAuth2 to secure API, then feel free to comment so we can all learn. Well, one of the reasons I signed up to present at vBrownBag is that vBrownBag or any other speaking opportunity is that I learned a lot during my preparation. Usually a few days before the presentation, or even now, I would ask myself, hey, why did I sign up? And then every time after the presentation, I would say, oh, well, I'm glad I did that. As a side point, if you are attending any local VMware user group, do consider doing a user presentation. It does not have to be a technical presentation. It can be a problem you encounter, a problem you solve, or how you prepare for certification. Talk to your VMAG leader. I believe if you want, we can find you a mentor to prepare you for the talk, from choosing a topic to the actual presentation. Have you ever watched the movie Top Gun? Viper told Maverick during the graduation as they're being deployed to a possible combat zone. Viper said, give me a call, I'll fly with you. So same here, if you want to do a user presentation, contact me, and then I will get you in contact with the proper person or provide you with any assistance that you want. Anyway, get back to our topics. And of course, I am also a true believer of community. So giving back to the community is always a good thing as we grow together. Okay, so we move on. So to me, what it is, this is what OAuth2 is. But if we look at the previous slide back on the OAuth cheat sheet for API security, they mentioned something about the API key. In API, there's a field called the API key. This field is useful when we used it to generate the key. The key is just like a car key. You need the key to start the car. But if you accidentally left your car key on the table at a restaurant, I can pick the key up and drop your car off. The car only recognizes the key and not the person. So this is the same as API key. But how does OAuth2 come into the picture? If you ask me in one sentence, I would say OAuth2 is a framework to generate this access token, which can be used as an API key that can be used as an API key. So have you ever wondered what OAuth stands for? I think this has nothing to do with authentication. Although when I look at the web, people think OAuth means open authentication, but I think it should properly be named as open authorization. So in here we have some more. It's a framework. It's also mainly is for authorization delegation, and this OAuth2 is defined by two RFCs, 6749 and 6750. The main spec is 6749, and the 6750 is how to use the token. There's a further elaborate on how this can be used. I think this may be sometimes where people get confused, or people write up another RFC just to clarify what they mean. And then there's a version 1 and version 2. OAuth1 is defined by RFC 5849. And the important thing is that OAuth1 and OAuth2 are not compatible. They are a little bit, they're different. And then OAuth2 is more, I would say, more mature. And then RFC is very important document for the industry. I remember one time I was working for a small company, and then we are manufacturing networking equipment, and we have some interoperability issue with the Cisco switch. So later on when we debug is that Cisco switch does not follow the RFC. And then even though we are a small company and Cisco was so big at that time, well, today is still big, but at that time they were just industry giant in the networking industry. Even with that, with the RFC on our hand, we can move them to change their equipment so to adhere to the RFC. So this is something the industry is looking at that as the standard or kind of a Bible. Well, for me, when I look at understand something, I always start with terminologies. Just like writing a software, I start with data structure. The first thing, what we want to know is the various parties and how they fit into the framework. And with this picture that I got from the article in LinkedIn, it talks about all the different parties. Well, we have a client, we have an authorization server. And remember, this is only, and in the context of OAuth2, this is an authorization server. And of course, there is the resource server and the resource owner. In the context of today's talk, the resource server is the API. API is what we use to protect the resource. And then when people can get access to the resource, and putting security to the API will be able to limit the access or to protect the resource. So, and the good thing about this picture is that the reason I put in this diagram is instead of just putting the 4 names, because we can see the flow. First of all, the client wants to access the resource. Instead of going directly to the resource server, we'll get a token with, well, this is, we'll see the word OAuth flow. We'll get into that later because this is an important terminology that we need to understand. But for now, for this slide, we look at the client will get to the authorization server with a token. And then with that token, it will send an API to access the API on behalf of the user using a token. And then the resource server will validate token and say, oh, okay, this is good. So they will honor the API and reply whatever. This is generally, we have the terminology that we have to remember is what are the 4 actors in OAuth2. The next thing is the flow. So or the grant. This is something this talks about how the client will get a token from the authorization server. So if you see a flow of grant, they are pretty much they are the same thing. Not pretty much. In fact, they are the same thing. And there are 4 types, different ways of getting a token. There's an authorization code, implicit grant, resource owner password credential, and client credential. I'm not going to go into too deep because we only have 1 hour to talk about this topic. But if you really want to, you can dig into RFC, and you can also, this is one good article that talks about how OAuth flow should I use, because it talks about all these 4 and how they can be used in different use cases. Any questions so far? We'll talk about 2 kinds of terminologies, the actors and the flow.
Now everything's cleared on my end.
Okay, let's move on. Tokens. There are 2 kinds of tokens. One is the access token. We have always been talking about access token because for me, this is the major thing that is getting how we secure the API is this access token. This token dictates if the resource can release the information when they get an API call. The reverse token is because the access token we can put time limitation. Let's say if we work, this token can only work for 2 hours. So after that, it will not work anymore through some kind of a session based. So we say, oh, this token only works for this session. A reverse token is how you renew your identity to get another access token to work. So this is just a token. But at least in OAuth2, the token is the ultimate goal that we want to generate. It's the framework that how OAuth2 is a framework to generate tokens. And of course, this is a very simplified view of how OAuth2 works. Again, I always go back to when you look at OAuth2 documentations or any blog posts, they always refer to all these 4 actors: the client, authorization server, a resource server, and the resource owner. But then you may ask, how do we get an access token? OAuth2 by itself does not provide a complete solution for securing API. OAuth2 is only an authorization framework. We have been talking about authorization. To give authorization, the server must know who is asking for the resource. And for that, we need authentication, which is to validate who you claim to be. It is something also called a role-based access. When a user authenticates with the server by providing its user credential, once the credential is validated, the server will know who you are. And based on who you are, the server will give a token with something called a scope. The scope is something that defines your access. What rights, what privilege do you have with the resource? Let's say a user in the HR department has a good reason to access the employee records during business hour. But what if the access came at 2 a.m. in the morning? Then this is something questionable. So depending on your policy, you might say, oh, these records cannot be accessed after work hour. So this is some of the scope that can be defined at the token. So we look at this screen, something called the OpenID Connect. It's further complete the picture, because this will be a better way of saying it, is that OpenID Connect sits on top of builds. So this one is rise on top. Actually, I think the better way I would use is builds on top of OAuth2, because they both combine as authentication and authorization. Authorized is only authorization. It doesn't have the framework that talks about authentication. And OpenID Connect completes this thing. But then with the terminologies we have learned before, OpenID Connect also further refine, because the thing is, OAuth2 is a framework. It doesn't specify how exactly things to be implemented. But OpenID Connect pull the definition in further and define, oh, let's say there are two things that also one of the things we look at is the user info. Another thing is that OpenID Connect specify the use of JSON Web Token to be the token used by the OAuth framework. This is very interesting to look at, because JSON Web Token is a token in a JSON format. Well, usually, I always say a picture worth 1,000 words. So this usually, when we look at JSON Web Token as a string, is this in this format. The good thing about this picture is that it's color coded. So if you look at the header is in I don't know what color is this. I don't, but this is one color, followed by a dot. It's a very small dot, but this dot does mean something is in the format. This dot is a separate, is I think how the program software can parse this web token. And then this is the payload part, followed by another dot, and then which is the signature. This is a JSON Web Token has three parts: the header, the payload, and the signature. So what is a signature? A signature is the digitally signed version of the header plus the payload. If you look at the code, they will call the hashing function of using the content of this header, and also plus this will create a signature. A signature, well, there's a we have to remind ourselves is that the signature is digitally signed and not digitally encrypted. There is a difference between sign and encryption. Although both of these two things need a symmetric key. A symmetric key, that means there is a private key and this is a public key. That's just the same thing as something when you do the SSH, you have a private key, you have a public key. What signing is that it's a one-way hash. I always remember hashing is only one way. You can only go one direction. You can, when you put something into a hashing function, it always go out one direction. There's no such thing as unhash. You cannot get back to the original with the hash. What it does is that the sender will hash something. Let's say we take this as an example. We hash the header and the payload to the signature. they will use the let's say, let me think a little bit, because sometimes it's a little bit confusing too. On the sender will use this private key to hash, to the one-way hash to create a signature. And when the receiver will use the public key of the sender to hash the same string to see if they get the same value. This is hashing. So for hashing, you can plainly see the header and the payload, and then they will not be encrypted. But if this thing is encrypted, you cannot see the content of the header and the payload because they encrypt. The sender will encrypt with your private key, a public key, and then send a message to you, and then you can unencrypt or decrypt the message with your private key. And this is a little bit different. So when you work on JSON Web Token, we have to understand that this is only sign and not encrypt. So let's say we talk about defense in depth earlier, that this is security. We cannot just use one thing to secure the whole thing. This is the same thing as OAuth2. This is only a framework to define an access token. But if you want to provide encryption, you have to use something with IPsec or HTTPS to encrypt the message. This is another layer of security. And so far, we have been talking about some of the concepts. Let's take a look at some of the sample. For JSON Web Token, I find there is a website that is very good about talking about. Plus, there is also a, let's see, let me get to, yes. This is a website. The URL is jwt.io. This talks about the JSON Web Token is also defined as RFC. And the good thing about this is a debugger. There's an algorithm. If you remember the header, the type, this is the algorithm. You can use either this. I think the H is a hashing function. This is using a symmetric key, and this is R. I think it's RSA. It's about asymmetric. The good thing is that if you have a JSON Web Token, you can paste it here, and then you can decode it. You can play around with this. I think this is a very nice website that we can use to play with. And also there is good description. You can learn more about the thing. If you click on that, there is a good ebook that you can know if you want to dig into. Let's see, we might as well go and take a look. It talks about what a web token is. Yes, the two, this is H and RSA. H is for RSA. It talks about all this in detail. Going back, no, not this one. No, this is still wrong. Anyway, this is not, so far we have been talking about OAuth2, and so exactly how it works. What I find is that I have here this one. This is I SSH into a Linux box. I call it a demo. vBrownBag. There, I have this. This is something to do. This is JSON Web Token is very popular, and it has many language support. I think this is one of the code. It's called Python. Let's go into PyJWT. This is also a library that you can call. This is one of the I get it from GitHub. It is how you can get to the Python JWT library. With this, you can call. Let me see. Let's do vi readme. This is an REST format, but this one also explains how we can install this library. And then there is one thing. Oh, in fact, maybe we can do something. Cool. We can copy this thing just to play around. No, not this way. This is I cannot do that. I heard the joke. Someone say, "Oh, I've been using VI for many years." And say, "Oh, good. How do you like it?" "Ah, it's very nice. Except I don't know how to get out. That's why I have been using VI for that many years. I always into VI." Anyway, this is try to get some joke as we go on. Quick. So this one. So this is at least just want to show Python. This is a good library if you want to parse a JSON Web Token. Python is very good. The library support is very good. Let's see. I download a few examples. One thing, one of the good example is this. I get from Auth2. You can also get it from the website if you want to play around with it. See, this is. Let me. This one. We have a Python server that is pre-written, that is for the demo purpose. This is just to create a website. It talks about how you can do the testing, and then the main thing is that there is a env.example that you have to create. Let's see, and I have already copied that .env. This thing you have to, yes, it's not very clear. So this .env file has two lines. One is the Auth2 domain. I call it vBrownBag, Auth2.com. This is something, and we will go into this later on, but this is some unique string that we need to put in. Then nice things about this demo that written by Auth2 is that there's a Docker support. So let me quickly spin up the Docker container that will fire up the demo program. SSH. We have done this before, so this is running on. Oh, this is fast because I already did it once. I don't have to pull the image from Docker Hub, and this is already running. So what it does is that let's say what's the best way to test this. I think I need to SSH into the box again. But let me put it in again. vBrownBag. Actually, I think this is a good way to do it. This is just explain the whole thing. This page, if you go to Auth2 document docs, quick start backend is Python. That you will have this. If Python is not something you are into, you are into another language. They have other support also. If you just go to quick start, then you the backend, then you will have all these supports. And today what we're looking at is the Python API. What it does is that it will spin up a server. So these are the code that runs the server. But the key thing is that at the end, I think not this. I have to go into here. The GitHub has a good. This is the place. So I have to do this because I am using a Windows system for the webinar or the podcast. This whole thing is assuming you're running into the same system. I think running a Docker system in locally is just a little bit cumbersome. I choose so I can follow this. Is the at least if we know it's port 3010. So let me see. Let me try this thing. HTTP. Zero, 10. I hope I get the IP address correct. 192.160. I typed it wrong. That's why. 168. No, still in the wrong IP address. 2. And go to connect. 010. Let's try again. Well, anyway, what I was trying to see is that with this demo, one thing is that there are 2 sites. One site is there are 2 sites. I was trying to get to this local site where it does not need an authentication token for the API. But if you go to this secure private ping, that initially, if you do not set up the OAuth2 at auth0, then you won't be able to access. And then let me show the page.
Hey, Anthony.
Yes.
We have a comment from Graham. He says the port should be 3001 instead of 3010. So look at the port. It's you've transposed.
3010. What did I say? 3010.
Okay, the other thing did say 3100. So or 3001. Sorry.
The one that's been up. Oh, I see. Interesting. Good. Thank you. Then we can. So 3001. Let's go back. Let's try 3001. Good. Thank you. So this is the demo application. Say, oh, good. You don't need to be authenticated to this call. But let's try this. Secure ping. Let me see. Let me also. So with this, if we do this, it will tell the demo code is that I need authorization header is missing. I don't have it. So how to mitigate this? One thing is that I have to go to auth0. Way. Create an API. Name, I think this is just a name that doesn't really matter. Find the name for the API, yes. vBrownBag. See, let's create this. Let's see if this will work.
There was a typo whenever you're typing that in. So just make sure you catch that.
Which vBrownBag? Where did I? Oh, on the identifier.
Yeah.
I think that is okay. This is just a.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, thank you. But yes, let's try again. Still no. But at least we see that the demo is saying the raw data looks like this. This is a JSON format. This is it's better looking. And the header, this is, what should I, think I log in correctly? Yes. But I think this cannot be changed. If you, let's say this, to say a logical identifier for this API, we recommend using a URL, but note that doesn't have to be public. Will not call your API. This cannot be modified. This thing, well, anyway, suppose this is, I was supposed to try to demo, if this is set up correctly, then let's see what, but then my domain, I think the vBrownBag, this should be correct because it's all in the lowercase. Let's take a look what's in there. I think this is showing this is the console for OAuth2 that if you want to try to secure an API, you have to specify these things. This has a scope that I'm talking about. The token expire in certain time. This is another thing. These are some of the things you can configure. You can also use warning. Once confirmed this up, oh, maybe I need to save that, or no, well, should not. Let me try this save. Try again. 1, 2, 3, try. Still, but anyway, this is something, well, we can explore. If you download, go to this page, you can download the code from GitHub and then play around with this. This also tells how to configure this thing, API. It talks about how things are being added. It tells you how to do the pip install, the requirement of all this, and then it talks about how things work, explain the code. And this is something. Well, for another, I'm preparing another demo. Is that we can create a. There's another thing that we can locally, instead of using a commercial product like OAuth2, we can create a what's that called? We can create an authentication server. This is another company. I found this. Not sure if this is a company, but this is how it talks about how we generate a. This one I can try to run it and set it up following the instructions. Let me see. It's pulling the Docker image from. I'm trying to build this database first. I think this is the first step is to run and install Postgres SQL. Because for the authentication server, I think always need a backend database to store information. The connection. So we have pulled down yes, Docker. Yes. So it's running. So we follow the instruction. I think all this that I'm doing today, you can do it yourself also at your local server. Export this. Actually, this one I'm not quite sure how it works, but it just followed this to prepare the server. Well, I hope the connection is faster than before. When it's doing these things, is there any other questions? Will I be able to see?
No,
Yeah.
everything's clear. This is pretty neat. You're getting a little view on Docker and how to set all this stuff up myself. So it's great.
Well, I'm just following the instructions too, but it took me some time to prepare the this is a Windows 10 Home Edition. I don't have, you cannot, because currently this is the old tool. This is the Docker toolbox that I have to use because I don't have Hyper-V running. I try to play with Hyper-V, enable Hyper-V, and then download a later Docker community edition, but it keeps on crashing. I do not know why. To me, when I play with Docker, I still prefer running it on a Linux system. I'm still not too sure, but this is because I need the Windows system to do the podcast. Say run. I think this is just actually running it, migrating the SQL. This is explicit command at the very end. Let me do this. Bash command not found. Do I have? Oh, command not found. Oh, maybe I have an extra $sign. Let's see. I think I have an extra $sign. Let's see. It's always like this when you're doing a live demo. Let's see.
Yeah, the live demo is one of the greatest parts and the bane of these podcasts, you know.
Right, but then to me, live demo is not the most difficult for me. The most difficult is the answering question. You never know what the audience is going to ask. Anyway, I think this is being done. So let me see if we can run the OAuth server according to this. We still have to. Oh, this is the last pool was doing the migration. So this time, let's see. Let's create the server. Paste. Let's try it. Let's see, Docker PS. We have two containers running. One is the database, and I think one is the Hydra. Hydra is a server. So we do. This is to say, just to check. Let's copy this too. Double check. Although we use other ways to check. Paste. You see what we're supposed to. Setting up server. I only see one message. Connecting with progress. Now let's see. Let's move on. See if it works. The next thing. Another. Oh no, I'm running ahead of myself. Is it to run the server? So I think this is the OAuth2 servers running in my machine. Generate a token. Now let's see. Let's move on. Generate a token. Maybe I need to do it on a DDY. But let's connect. Maybe the server is not running. or I never understand if I really need to go into the server or this is running this needs to know where Hydra is and which client ID secret, since we use when we're creating this. Well, let's try to debug. Well, this thing is running. I don't know the command to SSH to the. I was trying to do the Vagrant SSH to the Vagrant VM, but just like in this Docker command. How do I do that? Let's see. Let's Google. See, Docker run. That's high. You need to put the command there. I think this might not try the command with wmtty. I think I have a problem with this. Is assuming I'm running the whole thing in a Linux server, whereas I'm doing this, I might not be able to log in. But anyway, if you play around with this, I put the website out on the question and answer. You can go and try it out yourself. And this thing is very nice because eventually you will be able to have if you follow this, you will be able to have a screen like this and play around with it. So this is pretty comprehensive. I think if you need something to play, OAuth server to play with in-house, then this is a very nice place. Let's see. Let's get back to the. Do I still have it? Maybe I don't. Okay. This is something I put together. I think the whole thing, if you want to secure an API, this is how we're putting everything together. We need to understand all these three pieces: OAuth2, which is an authorization framework; the OIDC, the OpenID Connect, is for authentication, and then the JWT is being specifically specified in the OIDC spec to be used as the access token. So this is one of the use cases that we'll be able to secure, because for microservices, they use a lot of REST API talking to different parts, or well, depending if you're in the Kubernetes context, it's called a pod, or you can call each individual service or a Docker or a container, because container does not have to be Docker. Docker being used just like a Xerox. This is a Xerox machine. Actually, Xerox is a company name, and this should be a copy machine. So Docker container should be the one form of container. There's a CoreOS. There's other different form of container as LSC. But then anyway, going back to securing API with OAuth2, this is one of the application. And here are some of the resources that I found being useful. Of course, for the server demo that I have here before is for this location. Stormpath used to do it, but there's being merged. I'm not sure if the right word, being bought or merged with this company. So this is the current company name. MuleSoft is very high on API, and it has a good resource for API security. Nordic API, if you go to YouTube and use this, tons of API security clip that you can use. Amazon Conical is one of the way that utilize Auth0, but I think this can only be used within Amazon services and not for others. So this is within Amazon service that you have this single sign-on, this OAuth-like authorization thing with this product. Of course, Auth0 has also good resource on API security. For JSON Web Token, these are some of the things. Again, we went to this JWT.O before, and Auth0 has an ebook that you can download. Has very detailed description of JSON Web Token, because Auth0 uses JSON Web Token very extensively. And lastly, this is for OAuth2. If you're interested, look at these two RFCs. One of the things is that Google has OAuth Playground that you can play around. You can also go and take a look. This is the playground. You can play around with it. These are some of the resources that I found useful for this particular topic. And then just so I don't have an end thank you slide prepared. This is the end of the deck. And that's all I have for tonight.
It was great. It was really cool seeing how to build that server, and I'll make sure to get that link into the show notes on YouTube so that everybody else can click and follow along.
Yeah, this is very cool. This is also have a link. This is what this is what I'm supposed to have for the demo. Anyway, yes. Any questions, comments? Well, if not, thank you for coming and happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thanks. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Eat a lot of turkey.
Yeah. I'll save you a pumpkin pie.
Sounds great.